guys, it's you, Phoebe, and welcome back to my channel. If you've never seen my face on your screens before, please hit that big red subscribe button down below and click the notifications bell so you get notifications every single time I upload. So today's Doctor Who video is my review on the Keys of Marinus. I'm not sure if I said that right. Someone please correct me if I am wrong. Now I couldn't review the Marco Polo story because that's non-existent on BritBox and I use it on BritBox. So this serial aired 11th of April 1964, so quite a good one. Now I kind of liked this story in so many ways because it was basically the Doctor and his companions hunting for these keys, basically. I also love the void in this. This is a brilliant, fantastic story, I think, and it goes really well, I think, and it really fits nicely with the whole sci-fi genre. But what I liked about this particular story is it was all a mix of locations. They weren't in one location, which in my experience with long stories like that in the classic era, they are a bit of a problem if they stay in the same location throughout the entire story, and it gets a little bit boring. But because this time this story was based completely differently and it was a well-paced and thought out episode, I just loved it. Basically, the Doctor and companions land on this planet and they have a task to search for these 6 keys. They have to search for these 5, I think it's 5 keys. They have to search for these keys basically to put together, but there's also the void. They also have to stop the void from getting hold of them because the damage that they would do is unimaginable. So yeah, but I liked the element of this. This wasn't just in one location, it was in multiple different locations, which I think gives the entire story a well-paced story, because 1 minute they're in the tower where the void are talking to this person, the next they're in this kind of like ancient Rome setting, which I don't actually think was an ancient Rome setting, but it very much felt like that. The next thing they're in this kind of like jungle thing for the next episode, and then they're in this winter thing, and then they're back where they started, which I like. I love the jungle element to it. I love the snowy episode as well, with the snow. I love the also court episode, which was for 2 episodes, but it was still very well paced with all the different locations. I completely enjoyed this story. I loved the idea of a key hunt, basically hunting for clues to find these keys. That's what I enjoyed most, but I think with this particular episode you can enjoy it as long as you don't find it incredibly long, or that you're not a massive fan of long stories. If you don't like long stories, here's my friendly advice, that you just stick to the 4-part classic Doctor Who stories, which actually start properly with Peter Davison. Peter Davison was the only Doctor who actually at first just had completely 4-part stories. He obviously had 2 parts as well, but there was no 7 or 6-part stories in Peter Davison's era, so I'd recommend you, if you don't want to watch any really long Doctor Who stories like 7 or 10 parts or even 20 parts, I'd recommend you stick to Peter Davison first, and then you can have a long attention span for the longer parts. But I thought I loved the bit where they were in this other location and Barbara was wearing a robe that looked so like ancient Rome, but actually it wasn't, but it looked so incredibly nice. I definitely loved that element to it. It definitely made it feel like they were going to get somewhere. They were able to chill before going on to the next stage to find the key. And I loved how they managed to get 2 people to help them on this adventure as well. The Doctor's influence managed to help them, Sabitha and someone else. And I loved how the Doctor went on to go and find key number 4 and left Susan with Barbara and Ian and Sabitha and that to look after her, because the Doctor knew Susan would be safe in the main party. I love how they split the Doctor up from the main trio of companions. That was actually quite an enjoyable bit. You don't really see the Doctor until the court trial, but I loved it. I loved this story, probably because it was probably the first story where I didn't actually nod off, because it wasn't so long that I didn't really have to engage my brain much. But I also loved when Ian was accused of murder, the murder mystery aspect to it as well. It wasn't just finding keys, oh no, it was all about this murder mystery aspect to the story as well, which, can I just point out, I incredibly loved. I loved how all of the companions had their own initiatives of how to get across this particular bridge. When the bridge collapsed, they found initiative by putting these icicles across the bridge, and Susan went first, and then Susan was able to grab the bridge and pull it back up and tie it up again, which I thought was quite good. Also, I feel like Ian's confidence had grown in this particular story as well, because he was fighting guards, doing all this combat stuff, pushing people up against the wall, that kind of thing. And I also think that Barbara had also grown a lot, because this was their 5th story together. This was their 5th adventure together as a team. And Barbara was doing all the fun, all the combat-y moves. But I do love how Ian is a science teacher, so he understands the Doctor on an intellectual level and was able to do a lot of sciencey stuff with the Doctor, which I think is a fantastic element to this story, showing Ian's intelligence throughout the story. I just loved that bit so much, and I think this story altogether, it's a pretty good story. I loved it, like I keep mentioning. William Hartnell's the first Doctor here. Caroline Ford as Susan, brilliant. The characters play off each other incredibly well. I loved the element of the screaming jungle, the snow, the murder mystery trial, the trial at the end of the story, which I thought was absolutely fantastic and fantastically thrilling. I would definitely recommend this story to anyone who is a new classic Who fan. I definitely would recommend it. It's a fantastic story, very well paced. It's actually, I think, better paced than the Dalek serial. That was a few adventures before, but it was better well paced, I think. The BBC at this point obviously had massive money in their budget, so they were able to go everywhere to film this particular story. I completely enjoyed it. It was absolutely thrilling. It was a thrilling adventure with thrilling clues, and it was kind of a nice break from your traditional the Doctor and companions fighting aliens, because the Vord show up once in the first part of the story and then once more again in the last part of the story. So they're not really the main villain, they're not really the main part, which I think makes the story even more excellent, because you get an introduction to them, but they're not like the main focus of the entire adventure. They're just kind of there. So they only show up a few times, but I think that makes this story even more good, that the fact that the Vord aren't even the main element of the story. The main element is to find all these keys and make sure they don't get them. It's a bit like modern Doctor Who when they had the series openers Rose, Smith and Jones, Partners in Crime, The 11th Hour. I could go on, but I'm not. But yeah, I just absolutely enjoyed this episode, and I think I would give this episode out of 10 a 10, because even though it's quite long, I loved the idea of it. I just loved the element of it. So yeah, that was it. That's my reviews for the Keys of Marinus. Please correct me how to say that, because I'm not actually sure. To me it sounds like that. But yeah, make sure you click that big red subscribe button down below, and click the notifications bell to get notifications every single time I upload. Until then, I will see you again on Thursday.